Hi students, hi everybody. This is a lesson for Tutu. Just wanted to let you know you can download the notes if you need to copy anything down, or just press pause as I go through and you can kind of take a moment to write anything down for this lesson. So the objectives for today is to decide whether a relation between two variables represents a function, use a function notation to evaluate a function, to determine, to find domains of functions, and to evaluate difference quotient. So the definition of a function f from set A to set B is a relation that assigns the elements in X exactly to one element in B. Set of A is the domain, and then the set of function B contains the range. So the pictures best describe what's going on here. So imagine you have the balls 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, known as your domain, so that's time of day. And then your function or the relation would be the lines taking you to determine what the temperature would be on a set given day. So that's kind of what a function is in simple terms. And you have characteristics that you should be familiar with that are listed there. So characteristics of a function from set A to set B. Each element in A must match with an element in B. So it has to go somewhere. You can't just have something not go anywhere. For some elements in B may not be matched with elements in A, so some things may not happen. So you can see that in the picture. Certain numbers go to certain numbers, but not all the numbers are being used. So obviously you can see that. Two or more elements in A may be matched with the same element in B. So it's possible that two of the numbers in A go to the same thing. So if you look at 3 and 4, those each go to 15, which is possible. An element in A, the domain cannot match with two different elements in B. So you can't have something in A go to two different things, because then that would be confusing, right? Which one is it supposed to be? So that's the definition of a function. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to evaluate each of the functions, and we'll go ahead and do that with the first one here. So for example 1, you have 1 minus x squared. So we have f of 3. That just means plug in 3 in for x. So all we're doing is really just solving, and this is the basics of solving, right? So 3 squared, that's 9. So 1 minus 9 is negative 8. So that would be your solution to evaluating this part of the function. Now let's plug in negative 2. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'll switch up colors and make this a little bit thicker. So I'm going to go 1 minus negative 2 in the parentheses squared. So when you ever have the parentheses like that, it just confirms that you're going to take the negative and make it a positive. So the negative on the outside sticks, and you get 1 minus 4. And then negative 3 is your answer for that. What happens when you get f of t? So f of t, you're just going to plug it in, and it's just going to change it, because just like any variable, you're basically going to have a function that's just undefined, and that's okay. I mean, another thing you can do here is factor it if you need to and solve for t. That should be 1 minus t. And I mean, you could factor that as well, but there's nothing more we can do with that other than just leave it as is. So let's go to B. Let's do more. So with B, we have g of x. That's just the name of the function. You have negative x squared plus 4x plus 1. So let's plug in 2. Let's pick green. So I'm going to get negative 2 squared plus 4 times 2 plus 1. So I'm going to get negative 2, which is 4, plus 8 plus 1. So that negative 4 now out in front is going to be negative 4 plus 8, which is 4, plus 1. You're going to end up with 5. All right. I'm going to plug in x plus 2. So same thing. Plug in x plus 2, square it, and then plus 1. So for this, I am going to FOIL. So when you FOIL, I get x squared, and then 2 times the x is 2. Because you're squaring it, you're going to multiply it by 2, so you should get 4x, and then we get 4. And then for this one, distribute the 4, so I get 4x plus 8 plus 1, and then now I can just distribute the negative here, so I get negative x squared minus 4x minus 4 plus 4x plus 9. So the 4x's cancel. I'm going to end up with negative x squared. Negative 4 plus 9 is going to be a plus 5, and we're done. So that's compositions. Those are functions. That's just basically plugging them in and finding a solution. So we'll continue on with piecewise functions. So for piecewise functions, you have functions where they work under certain things. So right here, this is the domain. Oh, spelled that wrong. So this is our domain, and it tells you which function to use during what time. So for this, whenever the number is negative, so negative x's, so negative numbers, we're going to use that function. And then for positive numbers, so positive ones, you're going to use that. So that's all that means for a piecewise. So we're just going to plug in depending on what we have. So find f of 2. So since that's a positive number, I'm going to plug into the first equation there, or the bottom equation. So it's going to be 2 minus 1, which is going to be equal to 1. For the next one, it wants us to plug in 0. 0 is still part of the x greater than or less than, so we're going to use the positive one. So I'm just going to plug in 0 minus 1, and that's going to be negative 1. All right, next one, I'm going to look at it, and it wants me to plug in negative 2, so I have to use the top one. So that's why I'm going to color code to pink. So I'm going to do negative 2 squared plus 1, which is going to get me 4 plus 1, which is 5. So when it talks about piecewise functions, it's basically just using graphs and making sure you're using the right equation under the given number of which one you should be using. All right, last thing we're going to talk about for the notes is known as the difference quotient. So moving up. So difference quotient is this formula here, so don't be thrown off. I know it seems like a lot, but we're going to work through this together. So f of x is equal to x squared minus 4x plus 7. This stuff is used in calculus, and it wants us to go ahead and just solve the difference quotient. So what we're going to use is the f of x at h. So we're plugging each one of these into this. So each one of these is going to have a certain part, but the h is going to be on the outside. So the first thing first, I'm just going to go ahead and start by doing f of x plus h. So if I plug in f of x plus h, and I'll switch colors so we know what we're working with, I should end up getting x plus h squared minus 4x plus h, and then plus 7. And then this is going to be all over h. And then for the second part, I'm going to plug in the f of x, which is really just rewrite what you have. So minus x squared minus 4x plus 7. Okay. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the x squared plus h. So I'm going to end up with x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. That's all in parentheses. And let me move this over a little bit. I need a little more space. Obviously this is all over h. I'm going to do minus 4x plus 4h plus 7. And then I'm going to take the opposite of everything in the parentheses that's in pink. So I'm going to have negative x squared plus 4x and then I'm going to get minus 7. Okay, so now that I've worked this out, I can start to cancel what I can. So I have a minus 4x and a positive 4x, that goes away. I have a plus 7 and a minus 7, that goes away. I have this negative x squared or positive x squared over here, and that minus, so that goes away. And so what am I left with? I'll rewrite it in circle. So I'm left with this, that, and a 4h. So I'm going to get 2xh plus h squared plus 4h, and that's all over h. Okay, so what can I do now? I can factor out an h. So I get 2x plus h plus 4 all over h. And so cancel out your h's, and your final answer should be x plus h plus 4, and we're done. So that's your final answer. That's the difference quotient. This is a calculus thing for finding derivatives. So that's something that comes up when we get to limits. So just some practice with some different stuff. All right, so kind of just going back over the notes, it's all about functions, being familiar with this. Hopefully you've seen them. Your homework is there posted. So let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next class.